Alright? Hey Facebook, wanted to connect tonight on fermented foods. We're going to have a health talk about the importance, the nutritional value, and what you should be doing at home to incorporate a lot of the fermented foods into your life, into your diet. Essentially, you get healthy when your gut gets healthy. So we're going to talk about what you can do in order to improve your gut health. So I don't know if you've been doing fermented foods, if you've added any to your diet, your lifestyle, but if you have not, you will shortly. So we're finding out a ton of things about fermented foods. We're finding out how important they are. Not only are they important to help make sure your intestines, your gut are healthy, but when your gut's healthy, your brain, your body, everything is healthy. You literally are what you eat. And most Americans, most diets in America are made up of processed and refined foods. And 30, 40 years ago, we took a detour off of what we should have been eating and tried to make foods more efficient, more cost-effective, faster. And as a result, we lost the nutritional value, the benefit, and along the way, the bacteria that really are beneficial in establishing how your body is designed to work. So when we take in a lot of processed foods, they have been reduced down and are missing a lot of the essential ingredients that make your body healthy. Essentially, anything that's pasteurized, any milk products, things like that, they're all devoid of all the bacteria that are really critical and crucial in making your body healthy. So what we're going to talk about are some of the important ingredients and foods that you can bring back into your life. They're ingredients that all of our ancestors ate, and they ate them because of the seasonality of food. Seasonality is not something you're going to hear Dr. Oz talk about, you're not going to hear Dr. McCall talk about, you're not going to hear your regular doctor talk about it. But seasonality is what's outside. Most people live in temperate climates. If you live in the tropics, your diet's much different than someone that lives in the majority of North America or Europe, and it's much different than anybody living in the Arctic Circle. So your diet needs to reflect where you live. Your body reflects where you live, so your diet should too. Anytime that your diet and your body are in a different state, you are going to be sick. And that's as simple a fact as I can tell you. Most doctors will tell you that you should eat a well-balanced diet of vegetables and fruits all year long. Yet if you look at your window at trees, and those trees for 3-4 months of the year don't have leaves, then you have to start to think about where you're getting your vegetables from and your fruits from, because they don't grow year-round. So if you're eating foods that grow year-round, but you're in an environment that can't sustain that year-round, then you are out of sync with your environment. And that will make you sick. Your doctors will tell you just juice up with your vitamin D, take thousands, 5, 15, 25,000 units of vitamin D to make up the difference. But you can't create health from the outside in. It doesn't work that way. So what you need to do is get your body in balance with your environment and figure out if the plants can't grow the foods right now, you shouldn't be eating it in the state that it's growing in. If you're eating a tropical fruit and it's snowing, chances are you're not going to absorb, eat, digest, utilize that food very well. What we're going to talk about tonight, what we found out, what we're finding, is that a lot of the foods that we're going to eat that are fermented have and produce large amounts of vitamin K. The vitamin K is really critical for your body to utilize the vitamin D from the sun that your body is going to be incorporating. Think about it this way. All the foods go hand in hand, they tie together to make your body work normally. In the summer months, you're going to take in large amounts of fruits and vegetables. Those fruits and vegetables are going to contain a lot of the basically fiber and nutrients necessary to sustain bacteria in your gut. The bacteria in your gut are going to make the vitamins necessary to make your body function normally. Newborns are born with that vitamin K. Doctors are fond of injecting a newborn with a vitamin K shot. It makes zero sense logically if you think about the body. You are born with a giant hole in your heart. You have an artery that comes from the umbilical cord, a vein. All those things are open veins and arteries. And when a baby is born, they seal shut. They seal shut naturally and on purpose without a vitamin K shot. The vitamin K comes along 8 days later because the bacteria that colonize the gut, coming from your environment, produce vitamin K. So vitamin K comes back from bacteria, and if you've got a healthy gut, you're making plenty of great bacteria. Those vitamin K producing bacteria need to eat the food in your diet. When you're eating foods that are seasonally grown, then when you have those vegetables and fruits growing, there's going to be large amounts of vitamin D because that's what the plant needs to make the vegetable. So with the sun makes the vitamin D, the plants absorb it to make the fruits and vegetables. You eat that, it sustains the bacteria. Bacteria make the vitamins to make you healthy. That works 6-7 months of the year. The rest of the year, if you're going to live in this area of the world, you have to do something to sustain vitality. Modern ways, last 40 to 50 years, we've invented food. Foods that were quick and easy, but foods that make us sick. Any growth curve, any time you plot out disease, chronic disease in America, the slope of the curve always changes dramatically within the last 30 to 40 years. Look at juvenile diabetes, look at obesity, look at all of them. They're all a result of our inability, our body's imbalance with our nature. So if you want to have sustainability, if you want to have health, if you want to regenerate your gut, if you want to get your body back on track, you have to go back to what worked. You have to go back to what our ancestors did. You have to go back to what made you. Our DNA hasn't changed in 40,000 years. 40,000 years. So when people blame problems on genetics, it's really a lack of understanding. What it's blamed on is a misunderstanding, a misutilization of our environment. And the one thing, living where we live, in this temperate world, the one thing we lacked that our ancestors had was fermented food. So we have to understand what is fermented food and what does it do for us and when is it used. Because there's seasonalities in terms of fermented foods. If you look at the cultures around the world, they use fermented foods at different times of the year. For Americans, I would tell you, start in winter, start now, start with something. Start simple, start with the list I'm going to give you. Okay? 80% of our immune system is located in our digestive tract. 80%. Make our gut bacteria healthier. They may, healthy gut, healthy body, they work hand in hand in generating and creating optimal health. There's literally trillions of bacteria in your intestine. You have about 80 trillion cells in your body that make you as a human. 80 trillion human cells. 80 trillion. You have 100 trillion bacteria. So when you're running around your house in your world trying to kill all the bacteria and all the germs, when you're trying to Lysol everything, just know you're killing the things that make you you. Because without bacteria, you're dead. So instead of trying to make a sterile environment, just clean it up. Just make it normal, make it healthy, and allow the bacteria that are critical for your life to thrive, especially if you have children and infants. Because they need those bacteria to colonize their gut, to make the vitamins that allow them to grow up healthy, so that their children have the opportunity for a sustainable future. The key to this is variety. To quote Angel Morawski, who's a nutritional coach, each fermented food offers different strains of probiotic bacteria. So variety is good even in foods that may seem similar. So she's going to talk about kombucha offering different strains than kefir, even water or tea varieties. Just know that the food that you're eating, the fermented foods, you want variety because the variety helps to create a lot of different bacteria. You're designed to have 100 different strains of bacteria, probably more than that, but 100 different strains of bacteria in your gut at all times to be healthy. Most Americans probably have about 40 to 50. Antibiotics have destroyed the rest. So just think, if you've taken antibiotics, you have to try fermented foods. It's not even an option. Because if you don't, your gut's working with a 60% vulnerability to some other microbe taking over those places. Just think in your yard. If you dig up a square patch of grass, new grass doesn't grow. Weeds grow. So in your gut, if you remove healthy bacterial strains, good bacteria don't grow there, as well as the bad bacteria. The bacterial weeds, pathogenic bacteria, are going to grow and make your gut sick, body sick, your health will plummet as a result. And if you have any question of this, just look around America. Ask yourself how America is doing in terms of gut health. Everyone knows about gluten. Everyone knows about gut issues and gut health because we've destroyed it, because we've gotten away from these fermented foods. The question always comes up about the healthy safeness of fermented foods. So, give you a quote from Fred Breet. Apologize if I mispronounced your last name there, Fred. From the USDA. Sometimes suspect source for information. Again, sorry, Fred. Truth hurts. Properly fermented vegetables are actually safer than raw vegetables, which might have been exposed to pathogens like E. coli on the farm. The reason is that lactic acid bacteria carry out the fermentation, or they are the world's best killers of other bacteria. So lactic acid bacteria go a long way in creating the process that makes the fermentation process in foods. Fermented foods, this is right off of Google, you want to type it in right now, this is what you're going to come up with. Google fermented foods, is what you'll read. Fermented foods are foods that have been through a process of lactofermentation from those lactobacillus with the lactic acid bacteria, in which natural bacteria feed on the sugar and the starch that's in the food, creating lactic acid. So in your body, if you exercise really hard, and you exercise at a rate greater than what you're able to take in oxygen, you are able to keep going because your body converts sugar into lactic acid, and that generates energy that your muscle can keep contracting so you can outrun the whatever thing that's chasing you, or you can catch the thing you're trying to catch. And every one of your ancestors that was able and successful at doing that survived, and that's where you came from. So your body has the ability to convert lactic acid, which is breaking down and burning sugars in the absence of oxygen. And it's a process that in your body generates energy and the burn in the muscles. But it's also the process that preserves the food, which is why when you do these fermented foods, you're going to see them all jarred, canned, okay? They're canned because it reduces the oxygen consumption, which allows for the bacteria to now burn the sugar and the starch instead of the oxygen to create energy. And that's the fermentation that produces beneficial enzymes, B vitamins, omega-3 fatty acids, and various strains of probiotics. They said that the Voyager, Cook, from the Cook Islands and did all the South Pacific, they said that he always took fermented foods with him because it prevented scurvy. So the understanding, the knowledge, and the complexity of these foods is well documented and well known. Most of these foods are thousands of years old. Okay? But there's a big difference between fermentation and pickling. Normal fermentation uses something like a brine, which will help to produce that lactic acid. When you can stuff, like picture preservatives like jellies and jams and things like that, anything commercially done, they're going to start with something more like vinegar because it's going to be harsher. Vinegar is a beautiful cleaning agent in your house, much better than any harsh toxic chemical. But it creates a sterile environment, which if you've dropped food on the floor, you want to clean that up. But in your body, you don't want to have that be the case. You want it to be clean. So in your body, you want to promote probiotics, which are live bacteria. Whereas, picture when milk is created, we pasteurize it because it kills all the germs. You need those germs. They're very good for you. Fermentation adds nutrients. Canning does not. The speed of fermentation is very slow, where canning is a very quick process. That's why we tend to do it commercially. And it creates very bland, simplistic flavors, where fermentation creates a complex, almost like how would you describe wine in terms of full-bodied and all the aromas and all the flavors in there. The one negative to the fermentation process is the shelf life is very short. That's why most American manufacturers in the last 30 to 40 years went to canning, because the shelf life is almost forever. But any food that's really food doesn't last forever. It lasts as long as about an apple when you pull it off of the branch before it rots. Anything that lasts longer than that, by definition, isn't food. So think about that when you look in your pantry. There's dozens of fermented foods, and they originate from almost every culture around the planet. And every culture has them because they are thousands of years old. They migrated with these recipes, they added local foods to it, they made varieties, but they all come from the same understanding, as old as beer. Another popular fermented food. That fermented foods are really critical. Now, interestingly, if you go to the Mayo Clinic and you type in fermented foods, they do not recommend fermented foods, especially like the kombucha teas. I find that fascinating that they don't recommend it. What I would tell you when you are looking for sources is go buy a good source in terms of buying your fermented food. Make something that's clean. Use a pot that's normal. But just because the Mayo Clinic doesn't recommend them doesn't mean you shouldn't eat them. It means that you need to expand your circle of influence. America is sick for a reason. Okay? Seek answers outside of what the USA typically finds their nutritional research from. So when you look around the world, you're going to find that there's hundreds of studies in Europe and Asia that have documented the importance of pre and probiotic foods for your gut health. And a lot of these foods come from places like Korean stew. Okay, it's over 2,000 years old. That's the kimchi. The kombucha is a Chinese tea, 2,200 years old. The kefir from Russia and the Baltics, all that Eastern Europe area. It's basically a drinkable milk. It's a yogurt. It's amazing. Over 2,000 years old. Pickles, many of you are familiar with those. Those come from India itself about 3,000 years ago. Miso soup from Japan, 1,000 years old. Sauerkraut, most people tell you it's from German descent. A lot of debate whether it actually came from China as information and foods came across about 2,000 years ago. Natto from Japanese soybeans, 1,000 years old. Raw cheeses. People do eat a lot of cheeses, but we tend to pasteurize them. Raw cheeses from Europe, about 10,000 years old. Tempeh from Indonesia, the old soy cakes, about 1,000 years old. And yogurt from Mesopotamia, about 5,000 years old. So that's what we know is 5,000 to 10,000 years old. They got around the world because people traveled many, many years before that. So these foods were a way that anybody living in a region of the earth, north or southern hemisphere, that didn't have fruits and vegetables growing year-round, this is how they survived. That's how critical they are. They're critical year-round at creating gut health. In the summertime, they help create the vitamin K that allows your body to utilize the vitamin D of the sun. In the wintertime, they're how your body is designed to get through those winter months without the sun, without the naturally occurring fruits and vegetables. And when you eat them in a fermented state, they help create a state where your body is going to be much healthier. If you have gut issues, start here. Add fermented foods to your diet and add a variety of those fermented foods, just like Angela mentioned. If you're healthy, add them to get healthier. Because in America especially, and in a lot of European, Canadian areas, we don't really understand because we've depleted our nutrients, we've depleted our soil, and we depleted our food sources so much that most people are actually sick. So take a huge step forward, branch out of that comfort zone, that little box of yours, make it bigger, and add something amazing, something simple like a fermented food. You can actually start to find them in your grocery store, in the healthy area of the grocery store, but fermented foods are an absolute staple of your diet, and if you've never had one, take a big step forward and just add something today. Have a great day, Facebook. Thanks for being here today. I'll see you next week.